Welcome to another week of the Green Room Podcast. I am your producer / co-host, Andrew Kent, here along with my two co-hosts, Mark DiGiovanni and Otto Keisker. This week on the podcast, we will be focusing on the tight end and safety positions. But real quick, let's recap last week for our breakdown of the running back position, where Mark and Otto both put down their top 5 for draft prospects at that position. To recap, Mark from 5 to 1 had James Cook at 5, Kenneth Walker at 4. At 3, he had Pierre Strong Jr., 2, Breece Hall, and number 1, Isaiah Spiller. Whereas for Otto, it was number 5, Hassan Haskins. 4 was Kenneth Walker. 3 was Isaiah Spiller. 2 was Breece Hall. And number 1 was Kyren Williams. With that being said, guys, let's move on to this week's topic of tight end and safety. Hey, we're only 59 days away from the 2022 NFL Draft. And guess what's this week, guys? The NFL Combine. I know you both are really excited about it. I know myself included in that and many other NFL fans out there. So will you guys be watching the Combine this year? And if so, which guys do you think will jump out of the gym this weekend?
I guess I'll go first. Yeah, I'm excited to see the Combine, especially that baseball still seems to be locked out. I was really excited to see some spring training, but doesn't look that's on the horizon for now. But I guess we have something to look forward to at the Combine. But yeah, I think a couple of guys to me who I think are going to pop out at the Combine. One is Aiden Hutchinson. I know he's like the number 1 draft prospect. The dude's an athletic freak, playing defensive end at the University of Michigan. And number 2, I'm going to go with the big man, another big man, Tyler Lindenbaum, center from the University of Iowa. I'm going to give my offensive linemen some love, the big men some love. So I think he's going to put up a big performance. Definitely had a big year at the University of Iowa as well. So I'll go with the 2 big guys.
As for you, Otto?
Yeah. I'm actually looking at a different Michigan prospect, but DN, just like Mark, looking at David Ojabo. Great first step from Ojabo. Very raw as a prospect compared to Hutchinson on the other side. But I think he's got a quicker first step. So I'm excited to see him test at the Combine this week. And if I had to throw a second guy in there, Treylon Burks is a guy to me, really, really big wide receiver, but they also use him out of the backfield. He's a deep threat. You know, he's got some speed for a big guy. So want to see him jump, want to see him run, want to see all these guys get after it. There's nothing better than the underwear Olympics. And, I'm waiting for the first prospect that comes out and signs a really big marketing deal to start promoting, men's spandex. I mean, we haven't seen it yet, but it's coming. And the underwear Olympics is the place.
It's going to happen eventually, you know, for a fact. I would not be surprised. All right, guys. Well, let's move into the tight end position. We'll have our deep dive of that, and then eventually we'll move into the safety position for this year's NFL Draft. To start, let's talk about the overall strength of the tight end position. Otto, why don't you begin by talking about that?
Yeah, this year's tight end class, definitely not the strongest class. I think there's some depth once you get into the middle rounds, but the top end talent just isn't there. You're not going to see anybody drafted in the first round from this position. I could argue maybe you're not going to see anybody in the second round. I think you will see some guys picked in the second round, but the top end talent just really isn't there. Meyer from Notre Dame's not coming out this year. No big Iowa tight ends is becoming tight end university. So kind of a down year for the tight end position as far as the top end talent, but I do think there are some guys in the middle rounds that have specific skill sets that we'll get into later that could be used and maximized at the next level in the NFL. What about you, Mark?
Yeah, I gotta agree. I think it's kind of like the receiver or running backs and quarterbacks this year. It's pretty weak, especially at the top. When Otto and I go through, I feel like everyone's draft report was 6'5", has reliable hands. I feel like that's every tight end this year. But yeah, nothing really like totally stood out. Obviously last year we had a Hall of Famer, or future Hall of Famer, I should say, Kyle Pitts, who was incredible at Florida, had an incredible first season in the NFL. There's nothing like that this year, but if I had to keep a tight end, if you want to watch a kid who's going to be really good someday. Start watching some tape on Brock Bowers out at the University of Georgia in his true freshman season this year. Unbelievable. So in the next couple of years, that's the kid to watch out for. He'll definitely be a top talent when he comes out.
And then in terms of teams that are in the market for tight ends this year in the NFL, which teams do you think those are? What about you, Mark? Let's start with you.
Yeah, I think every team can use a tight end, right? They're so valuable just because they can block and catch at a high level. In terms of like teams who desperately need one, I'm going to go to Green Bay, Wisconsin. If they're going to keep Aaron Rodgers, they're going to need a solid tight end. I know Rob Tonyan was hurt this year, but and they also have Mercedes Lewis. But I think that having a young guy there, with Lewis, who's an aging veteran, I think a tight end can really work there to help out Aaron Rodgers. Another place I think a tight end can go is the New York Jets. Get some more reliable targets there for Zach Wilson. He already has a good connection with Elijah Moore. So I think getting him another reliable pass catcher, especially the tight end position, could be helpful for his development.
What about you, Otto?
When I think about the tight end position, I mean, you think about there's so many teams that could use a number one tight end because there's really only, I don't know, maybe 10 guys max. So you think about really fall into that top tier where they've locked in that position. I think about some of the young quarterbacks that are coming out. Trevor Lawrence in Jacksonville is probably a spot that I look at there. Tight end's a quarterback's best friend, especially a young quarterback. Doug Peterson utilized tight ends really heavily when he was in Philadelphia. So I look at them as being a spot where they could use a top tight end, maybe Trey McBride there. And then another team that I throw in there is our Eagles, and obviously not as a number one tight end. Dallas Goedert's a top 5 tight end in this league, but they're used to running 12 personnel. Tyree Jackson's coming off a bad injury that happened late in the year, so you're not sure whether he'll be ready. And even if he is ready, still a developmental prospect. So, being able to get another guy there and solidify that 12 personnel, help your run game a little bit. They're another team that could be in the mix.
Cool. Yeah. I mean, every single time I think of teams that need a tight end, I always think about maybe 10, 15, even 20. So many teams could use a tight end right now. And it's not a position that is as deep in the NFL as many other positions are. So hopefully at least one or two guys this year pan out. And let's begin to talk about the top tight ends in this year's draft. Let's go through both of yours, 1 through 5, 5 through 1, whatever way you guys want to do it, at the position of the tight end. So, Otto, who is your number 5 ranked tight end this year?
Yeah. My number 5 tight end this year is Austin Allen, tight end from Nebraska. So 6'8", Austin Allen. He's the only one that stands out at that height. Mark talked about everyone being 6'5", and he's absolutely right. And Allen caught my eye being 6'8". So this is a position this year where, like I said, it's deep in the middle rounds. Not a lot of these guys separate each other. But Allen specifically with his size and his jump ball ability is a guy that I wanted to put in my top 5 because I think he's going to be a big time red zone threat at the next level. He's not great blocking because, again, he's so tall. It's hard for him to get under people's pads. He's probably going to be a tight end that you're going to have to stand up and run out of more of a spread system. And he's not the most polished route runner. But the thing about him is that he's 6'8". He's got great hands and he can take a hit over the middle. So he's going to be a guy who can move the chains for you if you want to use him specifically as a receiver. And at 6'8", he's going to be a big-time red zone threat for you if you can utilize him correctly. So I got Austin Allen as my number 5 tight end.
Mark, who's number 5?
Number 5 for me. This is a pretty hard list to put together. Like I said, it wasn't really too deep, but I got Kade Otton from the University of Washington, 6'5", has some really good size. Had some really good hands this year at the University of Washington, but really impressed me is just his blocking ability. He really opened up some lanes there for the run game in that Pac-12 style offense. Didn't really get to see a lot of University of Washington this year. I think I watched one game. That was the Apple Cup, and both Washington and Washington State were pretty below average this year. But, I got Kade at my number 5.
Back to you, Otto, number 4.
Number 4 for me is Jeremy Ruckert from Ohio State. 6'5", just like Mark said, 250 pounds. He's been just a reliable tight end at Ohio State for a while. I think he was probably the best route runner out of all tight ends in the draft this year. Again, a guy who's not the best blocker, especially if you're going to put hand in the dirt. So probably more of a spread system guy, which is why I have him at number 4. But great route runner, very good hands. And he was reliable in big moments. Always seemed to be the guy who was open catching touchdowns when Ohio State needed him to. So my number 4 is Jeremy Ruckert.
Mark, who's your number 4?
Yeah, funny enough, I got Jeremy at number 4 too. But yeah, described by his coaches and teammates as a blue collar tight end, very reliable for him. He was definitely one of the outlets for CJ Stroud this year in the Big Ten. So yeah, I got Jeremy at number 4 too. I mean, what else is there to say? Otto already kind of hit the nail on the head with him.
All right, then Otto, who's number 3?
Yeah, my number is Meyer, 6'5" again, as Mark noted. It looks like a taller tight end than 6'5", to be quite honest, when you roll the tape, but he kind of plays like it too. Very good hands. And again, with a taller tight end, he's good for jump ball usage, just like Allen. He's really, really good after the catch. If you can get him in space, then he's going to be a little bit of a dynamic threat in the open field. Not the most polished route runner. He's a pretty good blocker, but he does get a little bit high at times when he blocks, which again, just like Allen, it comes with that height that you have. It's hard to get under people's pads. He gets high, tends to lean. But I like his ability after the catch, which is why I have him at number 3, and the jump ball ability. And then the other thing that stuck out to me that I just wanted to know, you're watching this kid, you're watching that film against Bama. So Texas A&M, if I didn't say before, you're watching that film against Bama. They're the only team to beat Bama this year. And he had a drop in the 4th quarter with like 8 minutes left. And he beat himself up so bad after that play. I mean, you could see how much it meant to him and how aware he was of the situation he was in. And he beat himself up. He showed how much he cared. And then he came back, and every play after that, he made plays as a blocker and as a pass catcher. So he was able to wipe it out, had the amnesia, showed that he cared. And for me, that's a really good trait for a player you want on your team. So Jalen Meyer, my number 3 tight end.
I like it. I like it a lot, Mr. Otto. This is actually a guy, my number 3 is Diese Jr. from San Jose State. And I keep seeing him on, teams' big boards. I'm like, or not teams' big boards, but I don't know if you guys have been watching NFL Network, but you always see like Bucky's top 5, Daniel Jeremiah's top 5. I keep seeing this guy as the ticker rolls by the screen. I'm like, all right, let me see what this guy's about. And yeah, there's a reason he's on everyone's radar. It's because he averaged 15.5 yards per catch. So, I mean, that's huge right there. He's got great speed for the tight end, and his ability to get vertical, especially in the seam. When, like, if you watch Kyle Pitts this year in the NFL, they use him in the seam. They use him at Florida. A lot of similar traits to Diese Jr. It's so weird to say, but yeah, no, his ability to get vertical and go up for jump balls. I think that's why a lot of guys like him too. Also, to mention Otto, he's 6'5".
The bigger the tight end, the better, right?
Yeah, exactly.
6'5" and up. Yeah. All right. Otto, number 2.
My number 2 is Kade Otton, who Mark had earlier in his list. So for me, and you'll see this come out in my last 2 guys, I'll just be very open about this. Tight end position is one of those positions where you can be a receiver and you can be a blocker. And you're going to have guys that I've noted, the Meyer, the Allen, that need to play in a spread system because they don't block well, but they're very good catching the ball. You're going to have guys that are better blocker than a catching tight end. You want their hand in the dirt. To me, I would rather have the guy that blocks and is still a good player that catches the ball rather than an elite guy who can catch the ball and can't block. So you're going to see that in these next 2 prospects. Kade Otton, Mark already noted, really, really good blocker. Does the things that open up the rest of your offense, opens up the running lanes for his guys. He understands angles and where he needs to take blockers, defensive ends, and things. Specifically, if you want to see him block, turn on his tape at Washington early in the season against Michigan. He goes one-on-one with both Ojabo and Hutchinson at times, blocking on run plays, and they don't get off his block, right? He takes them the way he needs to take them to open up a lane for his running back. So that speaks to just how good of a blocker he is. And then the other thing is he's got some speed for a tight end. He separates in his routes, and not the cleanest routes, but his speed gets him some separation there. And so I think that when you put that together along with his blocking ability, he's really a very good all-around tight end, and that's what it's going to take at the next level. And that's what gets you some chances at the next level, is being able to block on top of, being a good pass catcher. So that's why I have him at number 2. Really like this prospect.
Mark, who is your number 2?
Yeah, number 2 for me is probably a guy who's been flying under a lot of people's radar, but I have Isaiah Likely from Coastal Carolina. Coastal Carolina, these past 2 years, have had very good seasons. Both, been able to get into the top 25. I think this year they even cracked into the top 15. So yeah, just incredible football they've played down there, and that's a tribute to that coaching staff. But yeah, Isaiah Likely, he was pretty much their goal to go guy. What I mean by that is he had 12 touchdowns this year. Seems like every time they're in the red zone, this guy was getting the ball. And that's why I have him at number 2. It's just because if you have a guy like that, where a team's that confident, one guy be like, hey, look, we're going to give you a jump ball and you're going to score a touchdown. I mean, that's all the confidence in the world. And I just really like what I saw out of Coastal Carolina. I think Liam McCall is a great quarterback down there. And, I keep wishing them success.
Great. Okay. Otto, finally, who is your number 1 tight end of this year's 2022 NFL draft?
I already kind of gave it away. Said his name a little bit earlier. Trey McBride's my number 1 tight end. It's hard to put anybody else here when you look at the production that he had last year. So let me just run through my top 5, and I'll just do yards specifically. Allen, 602. Ruckert, 309. Meyer, 515. Otton, 250. Trey McBride, 1,121. Right? I mean, the guy was the Colorado State offense. And it's more than just his ability to catch the ball and run after the catch. He's also a really, really good blocker. So, you put that together where he's opening up the run game for you. He's good if you keep him in as a pass blocker as well. And then he's got great hands. He runs very good routes. And then one thing that I really like about him is his ability after the catch. He's got really, really good balance. He drops his shoulder to break people off of him so that they can't wrap his arms around him. And then after he lowers that boom, he stays on his feet with good balance. And that allows him to keep on running, get some yards after the catch, and be a little bit of a threat in the open field. So all around, really good tight end, great production in college. I think it's going to translate here, and he's going to be a very good NFL player for a while.
And I'll hand it back to you, Mark. Who is your number 1 tight end?
Yeah, I guess it's a consensus guy, but it's Trey McBride, Colorado State. But yeah, like Otto said, he racked up a ton of yards. That's the one thing I noted was 1,121 yards on 91 catches. Huge ratio of the offense going to him. He played definitely a large part there in Colorado State. Obviously it's in a small conference in the Mountain West, flew under a lot of people's radar, but, numbers speak for itself and his ability speaks for itself. And I think that's a guy who a lot of people are going to start talking about this year's combine as well. Athletic freak.
So for the most part, pretty straightforward. And like we've been doing the last couple of weeks, let's continue talking about this position and possibly one player at tight end that you guys see as a steal in a late round. So Mark, who is one player you have as a steal for the tight end position this year?
Yeah, I'm gonna stick with my guy, Diese Jr. I mean, his speed kills, and then his ability to get vertical, like I said, and it seems like that's what more teams are leaning towards. And I mean, just look at Kyle Pitts. I know I name dropped him earlier this year. He was so effective in that offense, and I think if you can get like Diese in the 3rd or 4th round, I mean, you're getting that type of talent. So yeah, I'll have to go with him.
What about you, Otto?
Yeah, my later round guy that I'm looking at as a steal, Mark already noted him, as Cole Turner. So the red zone threat, just specifically, 10 touchdowns this year. He's 6'6". He plays like he's even taller than it, and he's got great body control on the fade routes. So this is going to be a guy, again, you're not going to put him as a downhill blocker. You have to use him correctly, but you're going to be able to put him in a spread system, and specifically on the goal line, like they did in college. Carson Strong loved him. You put him out wide, you isolate him on that side of the field, and you throw him up a 50-50 ball, and he does a great job in those fade routes of boxing out the defensive back and then being able to have the body control to turn back and make that back shoulder catch. So that's a guy in the later rounds with a specific talent that I think teams are going to be able to utilize that I would look for to be a steal there is Cole Turner.
I think you kind of touched on this earlier, Otto, but for our team, the Philadelphia Eagles, who's one tight end prospect that sticks out to you the most that would really benefit our offense?
Yeah, so when I'm thinking about the Eagles, and it's a tough one, right? Because Tyree Jackson, if he's healthy, is a taller guy, he's the jump ball guy, he's the red zone threat, he's your spread guy, he's not going to block. Dallas Goedert is the hand in the dirt, one of the best blocking tight ends in the league, sort of thing. So I don't know which way do you go, but to me, I'm just going to fill the role with a guy that we used to have. What did we lose with Zach Ertz? We lost a great route runner with great hands. I already noted it. Jeremy Ruckert, I think, is the best route runner in this year's class. He's got great hands, and he's got that clutch ability. And I think Zach Ertz was pretty clutch in Super Bowl 52. So I'm going to go with Jeremy Ruckert, and we're going to get an Ertz replacement in there.
What about you, Mark? Philadelphia Eagles tight end, potentially?
I'm going to say Kade Otton, just because of how well he performs in the run blocking game. We saw the Eagles come up with their identity last year as a run-first team. And I think, why not? Just keep adding more, have an extra lineman out there. It's pretty much what he is. But then also he's versatile on play action. You bootleg Jalen Hurts out to the right side, you have him block, and then, you can have an easy 10-yard completion right there. So I think he can be very versatile in our offense.
Yeah, no, I have to agree with you both, actually, for the Eagles on that. So that was the tight end position. Guys, let's now move into the safety position for this year's draft. Potentially another solid, deep class for this position. I know we began with Otto for the first topic at tight end. So, Mark, let's begin with you for the safety position. Your thoughts, Mark, what are they in terms of the overall strength of this position in the draft?
This year, it's really strong. I think it's strong on all defensive fronts, but especially at safety. I know Otto and I keep talking about, some names on this list. I'll wait till we bring out our list, but yeah, no, it's very strong this year, and it's exciting. It's exciting a lot. It's finally nice to see some defensive players get some love.
Yeah, what do you think about that, Otto? Are you very high on the safety position this year?
Yeah, I'm really high on it. I'm excited to talk about this position, to be honest. We kind of shot through the tight ends position to give a little more time here. And to be honest, this is one when we set up our rankings of what positions we were going to do in order of the shows, right? We wanted to build up to what we thought were the best positions in this year's draft. So keep tuning in to hear about eventually those top positions. But we had this one at the beginning, and I'm looking at it, and I don't know what the heck we were thinking, to be quite honest. This position, to me, is loaded. First and second round talent, there's going to be 6, maybe 7 guys that go in the first 2 rounds from this position. So loaded with talent. There's also guys in the back end. Last 2 weeks, I've named my sleeper of the week at the safety position. So I think this position is loaded in this year's draft, and I'm excited to get into talking about it because I think that we're going to have different top 5s, and that's going to make it even more interesting, right?
For sure. And in terms of teams, Otto, that you think would be in the market for a safety this year, what teams would those be?
There's a lot. When I think about this, free agency is not too far away. I was looking through the list the other day of the teams that are losing safeties potentially to free agency. So those are the teams that I think about. If they do lose these guys, those are the guys probably the most needy in the draft for that position. So Kansas City potentially losing Tyrann Mathieu. I think the Bengals will keep Jesse Bates, but if they don't, that's one there, right? Marcus May with the Jets. The Jets could be in that position. They've now gotten rid of Adams and May. So those are three teams right there. And then, I know I've already brought them up a couple times on this show, and I sound like a homer, but I don't care. The Eagles, our two starting safeties last year, McLeod and Harris, are both free agents. So you could look at that as they have no starting safeties right now, and we're not necessarily expected to bring either back. So that's another team that can be in the mix. I think there's a lot of teams because there's a lot of really good safeties in free agency that are out there. So there are a lot of teams that have lost a safety, and depending on where people fall, there's going to be a lot of teams looking in the draft.
And for you, Mark, are there any teams that come to mind for a safety?
Yeah, obviously the Eagles. I mean, this is why I keep studying this position, is because we literally have no one back there besides Marcus Epps right now. I think him and Kayvon Wallace are the only two guys on our roster right now. So it's like, all right, well, we need someone back there. But I also keep looking at top of the draft board, and I really like to see the Texans and the Lions really make a generational type pick. And you got a generational safety. Otto and I will both have them in our list. So, but yeah, no, I think those two teams can use a generational type talent. And I think those two teams, are definitely looking at this guy. If they pass on him, they're idiots. And that's why those two teams have never been to a Super Bowl.
I thought Mark was going to give it up. I thought he was going to give it away.
No, can't give it away just yet.
Okay. I thought you were just going to tell everyone right off the bat that Daxton Hill was your number one.
Oh, no.
Mark, is Howie going to screw the Eagles or not this year? That's the question, right?
Yeah, he better not. This is a big draft for him, actually, a big offseason for him. It's probably the most important offseason he's probably ever had. So,
hey, at least he made the playoffs, though, unlike the year before. I would say the year before might have been even bigger,
Yeah, but you have 3 first-round picks and a ton of cap space with a young quarterback. And, obviously, like you said, Andrew's team's ready to roll. We saw him make the playoffs. So I think it's a big – that's what makes it more important. What kind of moves are they going to make in free agency and in the draft?
All right, guys, with that being said, let's get into the top 5 prospects at the safety position this year at the 2022 NFL Draft. Mark, you have the honors.
Yeah, this is a guy who Otto has name dropped as a sleeper, and I turned on the tape, and this is why this guy's my number 5 is Reed Blankenship from Middle Tennessee State, the Blue Raiders. This guy set career highs in pretty much every defensive stat this year in tackles for loss, pass defenses, fumble recoveries, and fumbles forced. Incredible year. His teammates described it as the Energizer Bunny for their defense. Definitely one of their team leaders. And I think this is the guy who's going to be jumping up draft boards. So yeah, Otto, kudos to you for picking my number 5, my man. I really like this kid a lot.
So I like Reed Blankenship a lot, but not even close to my top 5. I mean, he might be the Energizer Bunny that's turning on the lights. The top 5 guys that I've got coming up for you, they hit so hard they turn your lights out. All right. Reed Blankenship, he doesn't even belong close to this. All right. So with that, I'm jumping into my top 5. Jordan Battle, number 5, going to battle from Alabama. All right. This is a guy who caught my eye at the end of the college football season, actually. Mark was really high all year on Christian Harris. So, of course, whenever I'm watching Alabama, I'm looking for Harris just because I know Mark's going to be texting me about him. So I have to be watching him. And I start to see all this guy flying around, and I'm like, oh, there's Harris. Oh, wait, that's not number 8. Oh, there's Harris. Oh, wait, that's not number 8. It's number 9. It's Jordan Battle. The guy's everywhere. You turn on the tape, right? And I love that about him. First of all, you got to love a guy on an Alabama defense where there's so many playmakers that is constantly around the ball, especially the safety position where he can sometimes be taken out of the play. But really good size, good explosiveness, does not miss tackles. He's a really, really sound tackler. And in the safety position, you're the last line of defense. You got to be able to at least hold on, if not bring guys down with the tackle. And he doesn't miss tackles, doesn't go too low, doesn't go too high, really sound tackler. But here's one for you. Not only is the guy a ball hawk with 3 picks this year, 2 pick sixes this year, and 1 2 years ago, I believe it was, 3 in his career at Alabama. So he's a guy, not only is a ball hawk for you, great at reading quarterback's eyes and breaking on the ball, but when he gets the ball in his hand, he's taking it to the house. You might be able to use him on offense like Darius Slay did last year. Okay? Jordan Battle is number 5.
Well, Mark, it looks like you have a lot of ground to make up if Otto really thinks that about your number 5 overall prospect. Let's hear your number 4.
Dude, number 4 for me is the Jordan Battle man himself. Well, I mean, what can I say? Otto just buttered me up there for that one. Yeah, Jordan Battle is a beast this year at Alabama. And, year in, year out, Alabama and a lot of these SEC teams have top-tier defenses. And this guy was one of the reasons this defense was so good. I mean, I would say I know they got guys like Harris, and To'o, and Will Anderson, and all those guys. But Jordan Battle, like Otto said, he's always around the ball. He's just a ball hawk. I mean, how many times would I text Otto and be like, hey, watch out for this kid on Alabama's defense, whether it be Christian Harris or Will Anderson or Henry To'o, and here it is, Jordan Battle just flying in. But yeah, so I love Jordan Battle too, and that's why I got him at number 4.
You just know he's going to be good because his last name is Battle.
Dude, yes, 100%.
I always told everybody that you can tell when a player is going to be good or bad. It's usually because of their name. So in this case, he's going to be good just because his last name is Battle. It's pretty obvious, if you ask me. All right, Otto, who you got up next?
Yeah, number 4, we're going to stay in the SEC. We're going to go with the national champions. Lewis Cine. 6'1", 200 pounds. Looks a little skinny for a safety, to be quite honest. But nobody ever told him that because he is the hardest hitting safety in the draft. You want to talk about knock the lights out? That's Lewis Cine, okay? He's going to be the guy who brings that energy to your defense just because he's going to make one hit a game that puts everybody right back into the game. It gets guys jumping around, right? And that's what that Georgia defense was this year, and he was one of the leaders of it. You're going to you turn on the tape on him. You're not going to see him on every play. That defense for Georgia was so good that he's sitting in the back end. He's mainly a center field safety. You don't see him in the box too much. So he stays out of a lot of plays because you've got such a great linebacking core and D-line there making plays before it even gets to him. But when there is a play to be made, that guy flies around sideline to sideline. He puts his body on the line every single play. My biggest knock on him is that sometimes he overruns tackles or sometimes he tries to hit so hard and he doesn't, or too hard and he doesn't bring his hands and wrap up. But you know what? I'll take that with a guy like this because if you're going to be a tone setter for my defense in the back end, I can take a mistake every now and then. And Lewis Cine's going to be that tone setter and that leader for a defense in the safety position.
Number 3, Mark?
Yeah, I love Lewis Cine too. For me, he was just at number 6. But yeah, dude, that guy's an incredible talent, incredible player. But for me, number 3, this guy has absolutely jumped off the page. Watching a lot of American Conference football this year was Brian Cook, safety at the University of Cincinnati. You want to talk about a guy out there who's going to turn off someone's light? It is this guy. This guy was their tone setter at Cincinnati. Whenever that ball came into his zone, boom, literally cue up. Here comes the boom by Nelly. Absolute beast. And not only that was he just a huge tone setter, but he was such a versatile player for them on that defense. They used him in a lot of single high situations where he was very good at diagnosing coverages, played a lot of box safety, and also played a little bit of slot corner there as well. So a very versatile player. And yeah, here comes the boom with this guy.
Otto, where did you have him in your ranking? Is he number 3 for you as well, or did he not quite make your top 5?
He is outside of my top 5. I'm not putting AAC Temple competition in my top 5. Get out of here with that. I mean, Mark's got Ritter as his top quarterback, and he's got him in his top 5 safety rankings. I mean, I'm starting to think he only watched Cincinnati games this year. Alec Pierce might be his top receiver at this point. It's crazy, but no, I do like him as a safety. I had him at 7. I'm not going to tell you who 6 is because that may give away who some of my top 3 are. But I had him at 7 in my rankings. So my number 3, similar, being able to play the slot position, and some actually have this guy as a slot corner. I don't. I think he stays as a safety at the NFL level. And specifically, I want his instincts on the back end, being able to call the defense and see the defense with the ability to come up and play in the box and cover slot receivers. Jalen Petrie out of Baylor. I turned on the film on this guy before the Senior Bowl, and I was like, why in the world is this guy being mocked in the 3rd round? This guy's football intelligence is off the charts. He diagnoses a play before the play, 2 seconds before it's out of the quarterback's hands. He is everywhere. He flies around. He's only 6 foot, but he's 200 pounds. He's filled out, right? And he does not care about his size. He puts his body on the line every single play. Like I said, he mainly plays in the box, so he does a little bit of everything. He's probably the best blitzer out of the entire class. He had 3.5 sacks this year. He also had 2 picks in coverage. He can play man-to-man coverage on a slot guy or a tight end playing down in the box, or he can play the center field role. He didn't a lot at Baylor, but when he did, no liability there, right? They just liked him in the box a little more. But like I said, 2 picks in coverage, 2 forced fumbles, 75 total tackles. The guy does everything. He's 100 miles an hour at all times. And the football intelligence, when you watch his game film, is evident. He's a guy that no doubt is going to exceed at the next level between his football IQ and the athleticism that he has. And his versatility is going to make him, it could make him into a late 1st round pick, to be quite honest. But he's going to be a great NFL player.
All right, Mark, who you've got at number 2?
Yeah, real quickly, I really like Petrie too, Otto. He was actually one of my sleeper picks I was going to bring up later. But Baylor's done an incredible job, especially with David Aranda, head coach. Down there at the Big 12, where it seems like they just play basketball instead of football down there. They really made that transition to defensive style head coaches. They brought in a guy like Matt Rule. Now they bring in Aranda. They beat Ole Miss in the Sugar Bowl, and I really like Petrie a lot. But number 2 for me, hometown kid, right down at Happy Valley, my boy Jaquan Brisker, one of the absolute leaders on this Penn State defense last year. They were number 2 in the country, and he was right at the forefront of that. Was incredible in the box as a box safety. And I think one thing to point out is that Pro Football Focus had a coverage grade on him at 89.5, the best in this class. Jaquan Brisker for me is definitely number 2. And it just pains me to say that Penn State somehow did not get into the Final Four with the 2nd best defense. Otto and I can probably go on an hour and a half about James Franklin and his shortcomings, but Otto, I'll pass it off to you for number 2.
Yeah, I'm going to keep it positive today. I don't want to talk about James Franklin. All I'm going to say is that for the next 10 years, I'm going to have to not watch college football because he's got that extension. Anyways, Jaquan Brisker is my number 2 as well. And I talked about Brisker as my draft crush of the week last week, right? You turn on the film, doesn't matter what Penn State guy you're watching, you're going to see number 1 almost every single play right next to the football. Great instincts, 100 miles an hour at all times. My biggest knock on him, sometimes he gets going a little too quick, misses some tackles. But to Mark's point, great in coverage, both in zone and in man coverage. Really, really good in man coverage, whether it's receivers or tight ends. He is stuck to your hip like glue. Quarterback's got to make a perfect throw to get it around him. And then he constantly plays in the backfield when he's defending the run. You're going to see him tackles for loss everywhere. 3rd and 1, 4th and 1. You think about the linebackers that Penn State have this year, and then you throw in, Ebiketie and Lukita coming off the edge. You're thinking 3rd and 1, 4th and 1. Everybody's bunched up. They're going to be the guys making the plays in the backfield. Half the time it's Jaquan Brisker. Okay, the guy's just everywhere. He's just a great football player, and he's going to be phenomenal at the next level. It'll be really interesting to see where he lands, but I can't say enough good things about Brisker.
Well, before we move on to you guys' number 1, I just wanted to say real quick, Mark, you mentioned the Big 12, and I understand that they don't play that much defense, but what would you rather watch, a defensive game or an offensive game? Heck, if you ask me, I'd much rather watch offense than defense. What's more exciting? What was the best Super Bowl of all time? Super Bowl 52. What was that Super Bowl? Offense. Come on, man. Come on. You can't tell me that you don't enjoy Big 12 football. That's a joke.
Come on, man. What's going on down there in Morgantown? What's going on down there?
They suck. You know, the basketball team right now, they're under 500 after
What's
starting
going
like 13, 14, and 2.
How's
So
ba-
bad.
Hey, it's all right. You got baseball, right? You got baseball to look forward to. Are the Mountaineers even ranked in baseball? What's going on?
If you could tell me where it's televised, I'll check it out. But I'm pretty sure they're probably not even televised. So, I mean, the 10-year-olds in the college, what is it? The Little League World Series. That's more televised than this. West Virginia baseball is probably terrible.
Andrew's going off. I mean, it's funny. Like, we're going off on Penn State and West Virginia. Have you guys ever seen that clip on it was inside the NBA where Charles Barkley just roasted the Suns? If anyone has never seen that, just Google that and you'll just laugh hysterically for 5 minutes.
I'll make sure to look that up right after this show. All right, sounds good. Okay, with that being said, boys, please explain, Mark, why Kyle Hamilton is your number one safety this year in the draft.
There's literally only one word to describe this dude, and it's literally freak. This dude is 6'4", 220. He runs like a deer. And I mean, he is just all over the field. And the one play that stands out, and I've seen this over and over, was the first game they played against Florida State. He is all the way on the left side of the field. The quarterback rolls out right, throws a pass to the right-hand sideline. This guy comes sprinting 55 yards across field to make the toe tap interception. I mean, that just shows you this guy's ability, and he is a generational type talent. Just incredible all over the field, literally a Swiss Army knife. Kind of reminds me of Isaiah Simmons a few years ago when he came out of Clemson, another big guy at safety, had a big year for the Arizona Cardinals, but I think Kyle Hamilton is going to be a lot better. And he is a generational type safety. If one of these teams does not pick him in the top 10, Howie Roseman better be making some calls to trade up for this guy, because this guy is going to be incredible.
And Otto, I'm sure you 100% agree. If he's not in your top 5, Mark's probably going to throw a fit.
Oh, well, okay. Now he's not in my top 5. No, I'm just kidding. Yeah, Hamilton, I mean, Mark just alluded to it. I don't even need to talk about this guy, to be quite honest. If you turn on any draft show, any podcast, anything about the upcoming draft that talks about the best guys in the draft, you're going to hear about Kyle Hamilton. 6'4", 240. He's going to run a 4.4 40-yard dash. Mark talked about his comp being Isaiah Simmons. I thought about his comps the other day. I don't have one for him. The guy hits. I don't have a comp for him, to be quite honest. Every guy that I've seen at the safety position that came close or was as big as him, all they can do is hit. They can't move like him, right? And the guys that can move like him can't hit like him because they're like, I don't know, 6 foot, 210 pounds. Right? This guy's all over the field. And my best play that I saw out of him is week 2 against Purdue on 4th and 1. He comes flying out of center field and makes a play 2 yards in the backfield when the guy's running out to the right. And he takes an angle that you shouldn't be able to take. No human being on the planet should be able to eclipse a running back's ankle at a Division I level, taking an inside angle. And Kyle Hamilton does it and stops the guy. So when you think about people saying, oh, his best clip, like turn on him running 55 yards to the sideline and making an interception, or no, turn on his best clip is a week later where he runs 20 yards out of center field on 4th and 1 and makes a play 2 yards in the backfield. Like, the guy does everything. He does absolutely everything. To Mark's point, he's a generational talent. He'd be a hands down number 1 overall pick if he didn't play a position that is undervalued in today's NFL. And to be quite honest, he is the best talent in this year's draft. When you look at it, he's probably not going to get picked number 1 because you see the DNs and the tackles at the top of this year's draft, and we talk about the importance of those positions. But just from this perspective of athleticism and talent at your position, he's hands down the number 1 guy in this year's draft. I mean, he blows away everybody else at his position. And we just talked about how strong and how good this position is. I can't say enough about him. I'll just end it with this. If you want to watch football porn, just Google Kyle Hamilton. That's all you got to do.
That will definitely be going on TikTok Otto this week. Was that right there? That is 100% go. But yeah, no, you know what's funny, Otto? This guy literally stands head and shoulders above every guy that we named, literally and figuratively.
Yeah. Yeah.
The only knock on him is that he went to Notre Dame.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, screw Notre Dame. But I mean,
all three of
he
us
was
were Notre Dame.
He was a huge player for Marcus Freeman in that defense, and they are definitely going to miss him next year.
Well, boys, as we talk about a generational talent, let's talk about somebody that could potentially be a generational talent, but not exactly on anyone's radar right now. A safety who you guys think in the late rounds could be a major steal. Mark, who was somebody that you think at the safety position could be a great steal as a late rounder?
I think Otto knows where I'm going with this one. I literally texted Otto, I don't know how many times about this guy, but it's Marquise Bell from Florida A&M. I know it's going to sound really weird, but this dude hits at a level I've never seen. I mean, everywhere this guy's flying around the football, blowing up running backs in the backfield, blowing up receivers over the middle. Crazy athletic. I mean, his knock is that maybe sometimes he, misses tackles or, he doesn't have the right judgment yet, but I think he's somewhere you can get him in like third or fourth round. If you really work with them, I think you can turn him into a decent safety. But yeah, no, I really like Marquise Bell. And hey, man, Florida A&M, HBCUs, you've always find great players at those types of schools.
Yes, sir. And what about you, Otto?
Yeah, I'm going to stick with the two sleepers that I've noted the last 2 weeks in Wanye Thomas from Georgia Tech and then Blankenship, who Mark alluded to earlier on the show here. Both guys that you can probably get in like the 5th round, if not even later, to be quite honest. Part of that's because of the strength of the position. And then the other thing is they're not coming from top tier schools. But Mark already talked about Blankenship. The guy's all over the field, and his football intelligence is really off the charts. He not the most athletic player, but he reads and diagnoses really well, which gains him a step on a play. And then Wanye Thomas is a really raw player, but he hits. I mean, he hits. Just go back and look at the East-West Shrine game, and you'll find out. And then he's a raw prospect, but he's got ball skills from being a punt returner. So 2 guys I've already talked about in recent episodes. If you want to get a little bit deeper or hear my deeper dive on them, go back and listen. But those are my sleepers at this position. And again, I think this is a really deep position. There's a lot of guys here that we could talk about. And you saw that from our top 5s being pretty different here.
And going back to our Philadelphia Eagles, who's somebody at the safety position that we could see as a Philadelphia Eagle after this draft? And let's, of course, keep this realistic. Kyle Hamilton, he will not be an Eagle unless things are crazy, but I just don't see it happening. He's too good. Howie, he sucks as a GM, so I just can't keep pulling it off. No way in hell he's doing it. Otto, who's somebody that the Eagles should target in this draft at safety?
Yeah. I think we should trade all 3 picks to go get. No, I'm just kidding. Brisker, to me, is the easiest selection. He's going to be going. A lot of people have him mocked to go right after kind of where our 3 picks are bunched together. I don't think you're picking him too high to take him at 15, 16, or 19. And the other thing is I'm totally an advocate of the Eagles trying to trade back with one of those picks later in the 1st round and try to grab some capital for next year. So I think that even further puts you right into that range where he's being picked. So I got to go with Brisker. He's my number 2 safety. I already alluded. I can't say enough about the kid. And I think he's right in that range of those first 3 picks that we have. But, any of these top 5 guys that I just noted, I think they're all going to go in the first 2 rounds here. Eagles have 4 picks in the first 2 rounds as of right now, may have even more by trading back. So it can really be any of these guys.
Do you agree with Brisker for the Eagles, Mark, or would you like to see somebody else at safety for the Eagles?
No, I would. If we got Jaquan Brisker at like 15 or 16, I will jump for joy. Yeah, he's literally everything we need. And plus, safety is such a big position in need for us right now. We desperately need a young guy back there. I mean, we tried with Kayvon Wallace, and he just has not worked out. So we definitely need some young blood back there. Because who knows? We're probably not going to bring back Rodney McLeod or Anthony Harris, like Otto said. Just depends on who we get in free agency, but I would love to see Jaquan Brisker. And if they don't get Brisker, let's say they trade back. I think Jordan Battle from Alabama will be there in the second round for them as well. So I think that's another guy to keep your eye on.
Well, I have to say, I really enjoyed hearing you guys' takes on the safety position this week. We're officially wrapped up with both tight end and safety now. And as we do every single week, let's talk about our sleeper of the week. Mark, who is your sleeper of the week?
Ooh, sleeper of the week. I'm going to keep it with the Penn State. I'm going to keep rolling with it. This guy's probably not a sleeper in a lot of people's minds, but I love Brandon Smith. He had a big year at linebacker for them. And I mean, you just can't say enough about how good that Penn State defense was this year. I know everyone's probably gonna be like, dude, you're beating into our heads like a pulp. I know it's because we should have been in the Final Four, not Michigan. But that's beside the point. I really like Brandon Smith, another guy who's all around the football for this Brent Pry defense. And they're really going to miss him and Brisker. So I'm going to keep it with Penn State.
Who you've got, Otto?
So just want to hit on Smith real quick. I love Smith as a prospect. I don't really have him as a sleeper. I have him in the second round right now. Like Mark said, really good prospect there, all around the ball. He's going to be a starting linebacker in the league next year for whoever takes him. So really agree with that prospect. My sleeper this week is Josh Paschall. He's listed as a defensive end for Kentucky in the upcoming draft. He's kind of a tweener with his body size. He could either play defensive end or defensive tackle. Doesn't have the most explosive first step off the edge. Obviously, that's kind of the, would be the story with a little bit bigger of a defensive end, but he's got a really good bull rush. He's pretty good hand fighting, and he never gets blown off the ball. He anchors really, really well when they're in the run game and the O-lineman is coming to him, because a lot of time you hear anchoring on the O-lineman side, but he anchors really well as a D-lineman. And he does a good job against the run of anchoring, standing up that offensive lineman, waiting for the running back to make his move, and then eventually shedding that block and make it a tackle. Really blew me away in the run game. It's going to be a guy you could get in the 5th or 6th round, and you can rotate on your D-line as a rotational guy, both inside and outside. And I really like the value there in the later rounds. So Josh Paschall is a guy to keep your eye on.
What about your draft crush of the week, Otto?
Yeah, my draft crush of the week. I'll go back to linebacker where Mark just was. Channing Tindall. And no, it's not Channing Tatum. It's Channing Tindall.
I
the
wish
linebacker from Georgia. Okay? I can't get enough of this Bulldogs defense. And you can't really blame me after watching that team this year. This is just another guy where I talked about Lewis Sign and, a tone setter. And Nakobe Dean, when I talk about him, I'm going to tell you he's a tone setter, right? These guys don't just tackle you. They run through your face and they make you not want to get up and see him again. And this guy, Tindall, is the same thing. I mean, every single play, it looks like somebody lit his back end on fire and he's running from it. Okay, he flies around. The play never stops for him. He gets blocked. He continues to fight through the block and he keeps going. He's not the most polished prospect, right? Dean's a more polished prospect, and that's why you're seeing Dean go in the first round and, is one of the best linebackers in this year's class. But Tindall, from an athleticism standpoint, is more athletic than Nakobe Dean. And he plays like a bat out of hell every single play. So if somebody in the NFL is able to bring this kid in and coach him up, he may even have a higher ceiling than a Nakobe Dean going forward. And that's really saying something. But I'm telling you, if you turn on the tape at times, you're going to be like, holy crap, that guy came out of nowhere and he's flying around. And I can't get enough of watching him, to be quite honest. He sticks out on a defense where they're going to have, 5 guys go in the first round and, 8 guys out of the defense go in the top 3 rounds, and that guy sticks out to me on film. So that's really saying something to me, and he's my draft crush this week.
Mark, do you have any response to that as well as your draft crush of the week?
Yeah, no, I really like Tyndall. But yeah, I'll save him for my linebacker ratings coming up. So stay tuned. But Otto, I'm gonna need your help with this one. St. Patrick's Day is coming up. What is your favorite Irish whiskey?
Jameson.
That's right. Damn right. Jameson Williams, my draft crush this week, the number 1 receiver for Alabama. He was Bryce Young's number 1 target. The kid was absolutely incredible. I know he got hurt, and it stinks. I think it was against Cincinnati. He re-aggravated his injury, but still, just an incredible year for him. You could tell this kid's got top 10 talent, and yeah, I every time you watch Alabama, it's like, oh, there he is again. There's Jameson running down the sideline after a 70-yard bomb. So yeah, I can't get enough of Jameson Williams. But yeah, Otto, thanks for helping me out on that one.
Yeah, I mean, absolutely. We're a day away from March, and it's about time to start doing some car bombs. So I'm all about the Jameson. But Jameson Williams, I totally agree, Mark. He's one of the guys, honestly. He's one of those guys because of the injury that could really reset the draft board this year. He's a top 10 talent. Absolutely. He's 6'1" with really, really, really strong hands at the point of attack. That height makes it so that he can go up and make some contested jump ball catches. And then too bad he's not running the 40 this week because he'd be the fastest receiver in the draft, arguably. So when you put all that together, how can you not have a top 10 guy? But with the injury, you don't know where he's going to go. He could fall. There's a lot of different teams in the back end that need receivers. And one of them may get lucky and grab that top 10 talent there. And it may reset the whole receiver class in the first round as to where certain guys end up. So he's a guy to keep an eye on here. He could have a big impact on the draft this year.
And with the Jameson comment, speaking of March, we're coming up to March Madness. So that nod to Jameson was a little assist from Mark to Otto there. Maybe we'll see our Temple Owls in the tournament this year. Who knows? But finally, to end off this week's show, let's talk about the bad beat of the week. And this is a story given by Mark about Patrick Mahomes, who apparently is having his bachelor party. But unfortunately for his brother Jackson, the TikTok star, he was not invited to this bachelor party. So Mark, you sent this story. Do you have any thoughts on it?
I mean, it's just so funny. And I mean, I kind of do feel bad for the kid, but he also did bring it upon himself by, doing all the stupid dances on the sidelines before games. But it just makes it even funnier that report comes out that Patrick Mahomes had a sit-down meeting with his wife or future wife and Jackson Mahomes and saying you can't come to games anymore. And then now the kid's posting on his Instagram that he feels disrespected by the media because his brother's out partying at his own bachelor party without him. I mean, it's just the bad beat, man. It's so funny.
Might have been the bad beat, but it was the best move for Pat Mahomes. The best off-field move he's ever made. Honestly, like he's made so many great on-field moves with all his throws and runs, but in terms of the best decisions he's made off the field, this is number one, I think. Otto, you got any thoughts on Patty Mahomes and Jackson and that drama?
Yeah, I mean, I guess I got a couple thoughts. Good. I don't look, the sit down with him, that needed to happen. I don't know why your brother's on the sideline at games. That's not something that's normal. It's not something that should happen. NFL owners aren't supposed to be on the sideline at games, let alone family members, girlfriends, wives, whatever. That and that also messes with your head as a player. And clearly it's messing with Patrick Mahomes' image, not his head necessarily, but his image. And, Mahomes, as much as people may not like him because he's a winner, he's done nothing wrong in this league. He's really, he's a clean kid. He does a really good job of having fun off the field, but, not getting into trouble. So his brother is just, he's causing some problems for him. You got to have that sit down. I don't know about the bachelor party. I got a younger brother. If I have a bachelor party, he's going to be there. That's for sure. That's your family. So I'm not going to go there on that one. But at the same time, I happened to be watching The Hangover 2 the other day, and they, they're getting married out there in Bangkok, and Teddy, the wife to be, who I forget her name, he comes along for the trip, and I mean, he lost his finger, so maybe it's a bad thing to have a brother at the bachelor party. Your finger gets cut off. You never know. So, I guess I'll leave it at that. Maybe Jackson Mahomes should be happy that he's not invited.
Yeah, it sure sounds like it to me. That's the best decision Mahomes could have possibly made. No other way of saying it. But looks like that'll do it for us this week on the Green Room podcast. Thank you all so much for listening. As always, next week, we'll be covering the center and guard positions. This has been the Green Room Podcast. I'm Andrew Kent, the producer / co-host, along with my co-hosts, Mark DiGiovanni and Otto Keisker. We'll see you all again next week.